Hello and welcome to the Peru Travel Podcast. I'm your host, David Kozlowski. Alongside of me is Charlie Thompson, and we are currently recording live from the Logue Road studio.
Dave, it's going to be a great night tonight.
Yeah, it will. You know, I did my best radio voice right there. Did that work out?
Let me try mine. Welcome to the Peru Travel Podcast. I'm your co-host, Charlie Thompson. With me is David Kozlowski. I flubbed a little bit.
Well, not everyone's perfect. It's all right. We're learning. Just so everyone knows that's listening, we wanted to start a Peru travel podcast. Why? Because we love Peru. And currently we've been just totally digesting and really getting our hands deep into what Peru is. And we thought the best way of doing this was to create a podcast, talk about it, learn with you. And if you have any questions, obviously let us know and we'll do some research, do some digging, and hopefully we can, learn as we go about why Peru is so great, why you should go see Peru. And I think it should be on everyone's bucket list so far based off what I've seen. And
what you guys don't realize that is I'm learning right alongside with you. I'm just as green as probably most of you guys listening to this show. So I'm so excited to learn right alongside you guys. David is a fantastic host, and we should learn lots of great, interesting facts, also about some Peruvian culture, and just so many interesting things. I jumped on board, and I can't wait to get down to the nuts and bolts.
That's right. That was beautiful. Thank you for the compliments. So for our first episode, we're going to be talking about the top 5 things you need to know about Peru. So the first one that I want to bring up is Lima. Now, Lima is something that I see on everybody's webpage, right? It's always like, don't skip Lima. And I want to really emphasize this, right? Like, this is one point where when I was going to Peru, I really wanted to just go straight to Cusco. And the reason for that was because that's where, that was my adventure. That was what brought me to Peru, right? It was Machu Picchu and the hiking on the Inca Trail and everything. It was like Indiana Jones, looking for some lost treasure of the Incas. And I wanted to skip through the city. And the guy that we were with, one of my good friends, best friend, Kevin, he said to me, we can't skip Lima. And I'm so thankful for that. And there's a few reasons why we want to go through them, because a lot of people talk about what Lima is, but they really don't digest and really tell you what Lima is to its core. And so we want to kind of bring up a couple points, and hopefully we don't miss things. Obviously, it's a big city. Miraflores is a great area in Lima. But let's talk about Lima. It's a crazy random story. My girlfriend and I, we were walking down through Miraflores, and we stumbled upon a restaurant. Okay, now, we walked into this restaurant, sat at the bar, got some drinks, and let me tell you, the drinks, first of all, were the most amazing drinks you could ever imagine have. Guy was pulling on a blowtorch. He was blowing flames on this whipped cream type thing. It was delicious. It was incredible. And a guy from Sweden sits down next to me at the bar. He looks to his right. And he asks me, now believe this or not, he asks me, do you know where you are? And of course, my response is Lima, Peru? What do you tell somebody in that situation? And so I tell him that I'm in Lima, and he laughs. And he's like, you're at Del A Central or something along the lines of that. He got really fancy with his words. And I was like, Central? Oh, this is that restaurant that we couldn't get reservations to. So needless to say, we stumbled in randomly to a bar, which, mind you, supposedly you're supposed to have reservations ahead of time when it comes to going to this bar even. And the reservations to book out at the restaurant are months in advance. And this is not what I would recommend to anybody going to Lima. This was seriously just by chance. But what happened is this guy tells us we're at Central, and I'm like, oh, this is that restaurant that we're supposed to check out. Let's go see if we can get a table. So we run up to the host, and we get a table. And mind you, just to give you guys some background story, this is by Chef Virgilio Martinez, who's one of the best chefs in the world. It's voted the 5th best restaurant in the world. Okay, we just stumbled into this place. How ironic. Anyways, the host tells us that he's got one table left. And when I tell you one table, it was by the door. You could feel the heat waves coming in every time somebody walked through. Waiters were bustling by you. And needless to say that we got a table. Now, the bill was roughly, I think, around $300 for the 5th best restaurant in the world. And that the Swedish guy walked by us again, actually, and he said, so how much was your bill? And I was like, $300. He said, well, you want to know what? Anywhere else in the world, you'd have probably paid $1,000.
It was worth every penny, wasn't it?
So here's my thing on that. I think you would have enjoyed this place a little bit more than I would, Charlie, because I'm not a fan of the small itty bitty meals that you get. Not saying that what this guy does is not amazing, because it really was, and the food was great. It was just different. It was an acquired taste, and it wasn't something that I was like super passionate about. In fact, the best meals, and we'll get into that later, the best meals I got were in Cusco. But besides that, this restaurant, if you're a foodie, this is the place for you, right? And I know you're a foodie, Charlie, and I would recommend, if you were going to Lima, this would be the place to definitely make reservations to and go.
It sounds like it's going to be my first stop.
So a couple other things. One is chocolate in Lima is really good. And I know that sounds strange, but we stumbled into a chocolate factory, and I guess a lot of chocolate comes from Peru. This is something that was new to us. We didn't really know that. The ceviche in Lima, we went to this small village outside of Miraflores, not small village, small city rather. The ceviche was phenomenal. It was really good. It's fresh, obviously. It's right from the ocean right away that morning, And bicycling. This is pretty crazy, but you can rent bicycles like you can in the States. And we rented a bicycle, and we just went pedaling through Lima all the way through Miraflores, just had a fun time sightseeing and stopping at places. There's like random on the beach. There's like random like outdoor gyms. We met a guy who was an American doctor who has a disease. It was a really sad story, but he was out there doing like handstands on P-bars and stuff. And if you don't know what P-bars is, parallel bars and gymnastics, is incredible. Really interesting story. And needless to say, when you're bicycling or walking through a city, you tend to like open your eyes a little bit more, right? You tend to kind of take in what's around you. You start meeting people. You have to ask questions too. I mean, any person that we saw that didn't look Hispanic, we were asking questions because we were like, hey, you probably speak English. Like, where do we go to find this place? And typically everyone was really helpful. It's just a great environment for one, and two, I think because you're on the ground walking instead of taking a cab to like the next museum or the next restaurant, you're forced to really get to know the culture. And that's personally my favorite part about traveling is the culture. Aside from that, the last thing I want to bring up is I'm probably going to butcher this and get yelled at for this after, but the Museo Larco. Maybe I got that right. So this was not something that was on my list that I wanted to see. It was kind of weird for me, but Kevin insisted that we did it. And I'm glad we did it. Very interesting. Again, back to that eclectic taste aspect. This is a museum with literally, I guess we're all adults here, a bunch of penises and a bunch of vaginas on pots.
I'm surprised that's not your favorite place, Dave.
It was, it's strange, but the Peruvian culture back in the day was like, for whatever reason, sex and sex things were just a big deal to them. I don't know the history behind all this. All I know is that everywhere we went, there was literally like, you couldn't find a pot with a giant erect penis on the pot. It was nuts.
Now I think for some of you out there, this will be the first place you go. And for some of you out there, you'll probably never want to go.
I think it makes a great date night.
It probably, yeah. If you're taking your girlfriend to Peru, the first place you should stop is Museo Larco.
I think Museo means like museum, potentially.
Museo Larco.
There's no R. You can kind of screw that up.
There's no R.
But that's okay. Number 2. So the second reason that you need to go to Peru. We got done talking about Lima. The second reason is the food. Now, this is something that I actually still like. I'm not a foodie guy, but the food in Peru was so fantastic. And I can't stress how amazing it was. Like, so our travel doctor was like, hey, if you try anything funky, because it's like a pretty bad place for food. It wasn't bad. But he's like, anytime you try something funky, make sure you pop 2 Pepto tablets. All right. That's the quick tip for you from our travel doctor. He says to do this. Great. We were there on New Year's Eve. And one of the things we had to try was street food. And it was probably the best tasting thing we ever had. Now, this is where it's going to get kind of like weird, but we tried cow heart. It was amazing. It was like, it had some sort of like gravy on it. And there's a video of me, it's kind of hilarious. There's a video of me talking to a local, and I don't speak Spanish whatsoever. And I'm pretty sure he told me that I was eating cat, but I know he was messing with me because he laughed and walked away. But I was like freaking out at first. Like, what? It wasn't. It was cow heart. But anyways, it was amazing. It was super delicious. Can't say enough about the food there. Alpaca and llama is a must. Please eat it. People, like, we were on the plane, we were so nervous that if we asked if we could eat llama, that it would be like frowned upon because it's like their national, animal. No, everyone eats it. It's delicious. Guinea pig, what they call cuy, is literally, it is what it is. You eat a guinea pig. They fry it up, you eat it. It's a delicacy in Peru. And it was all right. It was like a super dark meat.
Well, that based on my research. I mean, I know you've been there, but based on my research, it's a delicacy, almost like, like whale blubber is delicacy, like in Greenland, and it's absolutely horrible.
Yeah. Side note: have you tried whale blubber? I know you went to Greenland.
I have.
Have you really?
I have. I did.
Where the hell did you try whale? Because I don't think, did I try whale blubber?
No, but we both went to Thule, Greenland, and I was actually with the locals. In their dorm. This was like on a base of about 500 people, and we were talking about food, and one of the local Greenlandic, he was actually an Eskimo, him and another girl that I had met, they were like, have you ever tried whale blubber? And I was like, no, I've never tried whale blubber. Let's give it a shot. Why not? Because to them it's a delicacy. They love it. And I popped the piece in my mouth, and I literally wanted to spit it out. And they were like, no, you can't spit it out. This is like frowned upon if you spit this out. And I ended up swallowing it, but it was absolutely disgusting. I'm not sure. Guinea pig probably sounds better than that.
Yeah, it definitely seems better. That's crazy. I didn't know that you tried that.
I did.
That's nuts.
So when I go to Peru, I'm definitely trying guinea pig. I'll try anything. I'll try anything once.
Right.
Literally almost, I'll try anything.
I don't think has been anything that I've like flat out turned down, but it's possible. There was something in Africa that I think I turned down, but it was probably because I didn't get it. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the next thing that I want to throw out is obviously ceviche. We talked about that briefly, but ceviche is delicious in Peru. Lima, it's fresh. Go ahead.
For those that don't know, what is ceviche?
Yeah, so my understanding of ceviche is like, now this is my understanding, my interpretation is like a fish that is raw. So it's like almost like sushi, but it's got like lime and a bunch of other things all over it. I don't know. It's just delicious. It's like sour. It's like a sour product. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, that's all I got.
Well, for those of you that want to look it up on Google, it's saying that it's a marinated raw fish, typically as an appetizer, and it's and garnished with lime.
There you go. That's where the sour comes from. Man, look at what would we do without Google.
Welcome to 2017. It's a beautiful thing.
Do you know all those old DJs back in the day, or like podcasters probably had to before podcasts, they had to like write all this stuff down, and we're just popping up the cell phone and Googling it. So outside of that, the other ones I want to mention are fusion restaurants. This is probably a common thing, and I just don't know about it. And I'm not educated in restaurants, like I said, but fusion restaurants in Peru were phenomenal. Like they would find a way to mix like Asian food with Peruvian food or whatever, and it was delicious. So if you see a place that says fusion restaurant, especially in Cusco, next to the square, check it out, eat it. It was the best meal I had in all of Peru. It was this random fusion restaurant. I don't know the name of it, but it was amazing. It was in Cusco, off the square. Coca tea. Coca tea is delicious. I drank it a lot. And coca plant is actually legal there, so they make breads with it. And it's really I guess the coca tea bread tasted like I would be eating pot because it smelled like marijuana. Yeah, I don't smoke pot, but I mean it like smelled like marijuana. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm eating weed right now. Yeah, just that's all you got for me.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So, and the street food, for anybody who wanted to know, it's beef heart, shish kebabs, but it's like antichuco de corazon. That was our buddy Kevin actually went in and wrote that down for me because he could obviously hear that I didn't know what I was talking about and the actual terminology. But on to the next.
No, before you go to the next, I'm throwing one in there on you.
Okay, what is it?
Because I love history.
Okay.
I love history. One of the reasons I love Peru is the history of it. And we'll get to that maybe in another show. But it's on the food side. What's very interesting to me, and I did not know this at all, because when you think about potatoes, you think Ireland, or for those in America, you think Idaho, the land of the potatoes. But potatoes actually came from Peru, and I looked this up because I couldn't believe it when I read it. But the Peru originated when the Spanish conquistadors came.
The Peru originated?
The potato.
Potato.
When the Spanish conquistadors came to Peru, they planted the potato there. It ended up flourishing, and they ended up being one of the biggest trades back to Europe was the potato. And they realized
potato.
They realized potato. They realized that this potato was so easy to grow and such a great source of food that it just exploded from there. But yes, not Idaho, not Ireland. I know Ireland had the Great Famine, but it was actually Peru.
This is like maybe a random... Coca-Cola has nothing to do with McDonald's, does it?
No, not at all.
Nothing, right?
Well, I mean, they're not the same company, but they work together.
So they work together. So ironically, two things from Peru come out of McDonald's. Because hear me out. There's a connection here.
Potatoes?
The potato and Coca-Cola is the only company in the United States, as far as I know, who still imports coca leaves because they got grandfathered in back in the day because it's one of their main elements that they use in Coca-Cola. Now
they used to use cocaine in Coca-Cola.
Right. I don't think that's not legal, obviously, but they do use the coca leaf. If I'm not mistaken, I looked it up after I got back from Peru because it's the only company that's allowed to import coca leaf.
Now there's no like illegal substance part of it.
No, I think making cocaine. I'm not.
You're not an expert on that, are you?
Welcome to our show. We're going to teach you how to make cocaine today. Now I don't know how it works, but I think
we're joking, FBI. It's a joke.
I think it's like ground up, maybe potentially like lay it out and dry, put chemicals in it. I don't really know, but
so okay, so like the cocoa tea or the coca tea.
Yeah, it does. It didn't really. There's caffeine in it, I think, too, and it does make you more alert. But I didn't experience any. I've never tried cocaine, but I've never experienced any cocaine-related symptoms. I don't think. I wasn't trying to clean the apartment. How about that, or the hotel? I think I just correlate like when somebody does cocaine, they want to clean.
There you go.
Yeah. So, all right,
moving on.
Number 3, and that is, as we all know, we know about Machu Picchu, but number 3 is the Inca Trail. Now. Age. So this is something that there's like a misconception. Okay, everyone just assumes that to do the Inca Trail you have to be 20-some years old to 40-something. That's false. So the age, actually, families can take their babies on the Inca Trail. Now, granted, I personally wouldn't. That'd be a lot of work. But you can like backpack the baby. I don't know, what do they call those things, Shirley?
You know, I just had a kid and I don't know.
It's like a bonjour, maybe. I don't know.
Yes, that sounds very familiar. But I carry my baby in my arm.
You're gonna carry him through the whole Inca Trail?
No, I would never do that.
Okay, all right.
But yes, bonjour or something like that.
Sure.
I think that looks right in my head.
Yeah. So Inca Trail, you can bring your babies. Teens can go. Minors can go. I was on the trail and there was like a 12-year-old, I think, that was hiking with his parents. Super cool to see. And his sister as well. In fact, that kid beat us every single day. And if there's Inca Trail is not an easy trek. All right, that's definitely something that takes a little bit of training, but it's worth it. And I'm going to give you some tips as to what to do to make it worth it. And to make it easier for you. But I'm telling you right now that this kid whooped our butts. I mean,
well, think about this, David. Right? Everybody talks about renewable energy or clean energy. If we could harness the energy that children have,
where's this going, man?
I'm just saying, if it's unbelievable the amount of energy that, let's say 5-year-olds to 12-year-olds have. I mean, they can. It's like the Energizer Bunny; they just keep going and going and going. I'm just saying, if we could take just a little bit of that, store it in a battery, we could power the whole world probably.
Yeah, I'm just saying, man, I'm just going to come up with something crazy, but I can't. I'm just saying, if I ate tacos every weekend and we could just turn it into $1 million, then hey. The next one.
I'm just saying that's why you got beat.
Yeah, is a guide. So this is something that I think is a misconception too, is everybody seems to think that you can do the Inca Trail by yourselves. And that was something that I wanted to do. I told Kevin, I was like, I really want to do the Inca Trail, just us. Just, you can guide us. You're an outdoorsy man. You got a beard and you're bald. No. First thing he said to me was, yeah, bro, so I'm pretty good with outdoors, but I'm not going to go explore the Andes Mountains by myself. And thankfully, the government has actually made it where you can't do the Inca Trail without a licensed guide. I think there's been a lot of issues. One is so these are like ancient ancient stones that you're walking on, and so it's really hard to just like let random people go walking on them. I mean, they could damage them. They could use their metal poles, which we'll talk about poles in a second. And they just want to preserve it, make sure everybody's kind of doing the right things. And it's a lot safer anyways to go with a guide because they bring cooks and they bring tents and they bring everything else, which is great.
And that's, yeah, I mean, whether that's right or wrong, whatever, this is not a political podcast, but you can, I think what you're alluding to, David, is that there is a lot of rules and regulations when it comes to the Inca Trail. You can't just hop on a jet, fly down to Peru, and just hop on the Inca Trail, right?
Right.
I mean, even, and I know we're probably going to get to this, but you need for the altitude, especially for most Americans that don't live in the mountains. Obviously, most Americans don't, or Europeans, we don't live high up in the mountains, and it's a very elevated trail that gets up to 14,000 feet. So
yeah, I mean, and with the elevation too, like you're actually it's suggested, especially if you travel through a lot of the companies, is you're supposed to be able to show up 2 days before you travel on the Inca Trail, and your doctor can prescribe you a Diamox, it's called, which is a drug, and you start taking it 2 weeks prior.
Because altitude sickness is real.
It is so real. I got some slight headaches. It wasn't that bad, but coca tea is also something that can help you, according to the locals. I drank it. I did have a headache the first day. Yeah, so medical. So another thing is there is medical staff that's on the trail. Typically, they've got like a first aid kit for you. Bathrooms. There are bathrooms along the way. They're not. I mean, they're. I didn't use a bathroom that. Well, okay, I did. How do you do this? It's camping. We'll just say that the bathrooms that are used, you got to imagine that there's 500 people a day that can go on the Inca Trail. I think 300 to 500 people. That's that many people using the bathroom, and it's in the middle of nowhere. So cleaning probably isn't the top priority. So basically what I'm trying to say is they're filthy. Bring TP, put it in your bag, be discreet, go somewhere, hide it, come back. So yeah, it's like camping. What to leave at home? You know what? We're going to go ahead and put that in the tips and tricks. Well, actually, no. So what to leave at home? So I don't know about most companies. Charlie and I, and Kevin, he's not here today. We operate a company called Kachi. We help locals. We met a local when we were on the trail, on the Inca Trail. Loved him. His name is David. Heard his story. Heard about some competition issues he's run into in Peru. We decided, hey, you know what? We want to help this guy. We want to help the community that he works in. And we want to start a company that basically gets tourists from America, Canada, Europe, whatever, bring them to Peru and sort of help this community. We can't help all of Peru, but we want to help in small doses and then hopefully expand and get bigger. But here nor there, we do three trips. We do the Inca Trail, Machu Picchu, and Sacred Valley. For us, when you travel with us on the Inca Trail, I can speak for us and only us, leave your tent at home, leave your sleeping bag at home, leave your sleeping pad at home, cooking equipment, and food. Now, the food one, I'm going to put a slight note on there because my girlfriend brought food and it was all gone by the second day. So if you like to eat a lot of food, bring food.
And I think it's more like those that are snacky people, right?
Right. Sure. I mean, I was glad we brought extra food because there is a lot of calories, but you're working all day. I mean, we don't hike this every day at home. So yeah, it's a lot of work.
So the total trek is over 20 miles, right?
Man, 40. You're pulling. Yeah, sure.
We may have to do another Google search.
All right, do it up. So the next one on the list is Machu Picchu. Now, this one's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to kind of just let you just use your brain for a minute. It's Machu Picchu. It's amazing. It's beautiful. It's cool to look at. And with that too, we're going to do a little slash because the guy who is helping us write these notes decided to throw in a sixth note, and we're going to go ahead and just say 4 and 4, excuse me. The fifth one we're going to bump up is the Nazca Lines, which it's basically images of art on the ground. This one's like kind of confusing to me. I didn't see it, but I know it exists. And if you can look up photos online on the internet, basically it's these images that are of, I don't know, art. It's hard to explain. And people are like, oh, aliens did it. I mean, these Peruvians did it. And yeah, it's old. It's ancient. And so that's something to definitely take a look at. And the last one, the fifth one, we're going to go over some Peru tips and tricks. So tip number one. All right. Actually, we're not going to break it down like that. We're just going to go ahead and throw them out there. So one is food. We gave you that one on the Inca Trail. Poles. So one thing that I think a lot of people make is they're like, oh, I'm going to buy hiking poles when I get to Peru. That's a big problem. And here's why it's a problem. They get those poles from the rainforest. All right. So just bite your lip. Go buy a pole on Amazon, right? A hiking pole, mind you. You're going to want hiking poles, so just go buy one. And some people are like, well, I mean, they offer a great deal. I'm helping the local economy. Sure, you are, but they're also killing the rainforest. And if you're wanting to help the local economy and you believe in that mentality, why would you want to kill the rainforest to do it? I could be wrong. Maybe some people have that vision, but I feel like most people who are interested in helping local economies also don't want to kill the rainforest. So yeah, and the poles aren't that great anyways. What are you gonna do? Put them in your bag? You can't. They're made out of wood. The ones in the United States, they go down into bag size. You can put them on your bag, in your bag, whatever. Aside from that, the next tip that I want to throw out there is the crime. So people claimed, I read all over, people, the cabs, you can get your windows busted in, they'll steal your stuff. I never ran into an issue once. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't crime. There's crime anywhere, but be vigilant. It's not bad. It's probably like New York City. In retrospect, it wasn't horrible. I took a cab at like midnight and we got to our hotel just fine. Didn't have any issues. So I wouldn't worry about that. And a lot of people who are seasoned travelers are going to be like, why would I ever worry about that? But there's a lot of people who are new, who are wanting to go to Peru. It's a foreign country. They don't speak the language. They're going to diversify themselves. They're going to get submerged into an area of the world that they're not comfortable with. Be comfortable. These people love you. They want you there. They're usually, everyone that we met was super nice, very happy that we were there. And yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about the crime.
It's probably like anywhere else. I mean, you protect your valuables. I wouldn't take, $5,000 on the Inca Trail. I mean, there's no reason for it. Right. So it's like anywhere else, protect your stuff and don't worry. And you don't really have to worry about it.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, another tip, is hire a porter, a half porter, I think they're called. We offer them at Kachi. So here's why. You're on vacation. And that was something David kept preaching to us. He was always like, you're on vacation. Be on vacation. Here I am with like a 38-pound pack with film gear, climbing the Inca Trail, miserable. If there's anything that I would do differently, I'd hire someone to carry my stuff. It's employing someone else, which is great. And here's the thing too. Swallow your pride. I get it. You're strong. You're buff. You're a manly man. You want to carry your own equipment. You do CrossFit. You do whatever you do. Go do it. You're going to hate yourself if it's a heavy bag. Here's why this is important. Okay. So what happens is you end up hiring a porter midway through. The first day you go through, you're like, oh, I don't need one. Second day hits. Crap. Now I need one. And then when you hire that second day, you're potentially putting these porters overweight, which I mean, they have like a weight limit that's regulated essentially, like so they don't kill themselves or hurt themselves. No, they're gonna kill themselves, but they could fall. They could hurt themselves. I mean, this is steep declines, and if they have a ton of weight on them, they're top heavy. They could fall right over, and it could really hurt them. And by you purchasing that half porter a day or two later, you could potentially put somebody else in danger. I just stomach my pride, pay for it ahead of time, and be done with it. It really makes a big difference. Even if they're carrying your sleeping bag and sleeping pad, it's a big difference. Yeah, and I think those are all the tips I've got.
But real quick though, the proper name for a porter is, and explain why.
So there's a debate right now.
It's a big debate.
Yeah, this is frustrating actually because I call him a chasque and Kevin calls him a chasque. All right, I call him a chasque. I don't know. I don't speak Quechua, all right, which is the local language of Peruvians, or was previously. But here nor there, I want to call it a chasque. He calls it a chasque. I don't know what the difference is, but basically, if you Google up a chasque or a chasque, it is essentially a messenger. Back in the Inca times, they were well-respected people. what's great about this is David will not let you call the people carrying your bags, aka porters. He won't let you call them porters. And the reason is that these are farmers from the local villages that are working with Kachi to be able to spend time, their vacation, if you will, to see the Andes, to appreciate Mama Pache. That's a new one for you, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. So Mama Pache, man, let me tell you that was like the big thing they talked about. Anytime they drank alcohol, Coca-Cola, you name it, they dump a little bit down on the ground for Mama Pache, who I believe is sort of just like Mother Earth. It's super spiritual. It's beautiful. But this guy is so proud of his community. He will not let you call them porters because he feels as if porters are not respected. And the word chasque is a very well respected name for someone carrying your equipment. And I think it's amazing. Just the respect that this guy's got for these people. And it made me appreciate him a lot more. Made me appreciate what we were doing. And that's a lot more tips and tricks like that to come as we progress and we kind of think about things. Oh, we should probably mention this. But I think that sums up our very first podcast episode, coming up on 32 minutes. We're done, right? So I guess we finish it. Charlie?
Man, it's been just a great time tonight. I've learned a lot. I don't know about y'all, but I'm from Tennessee, by the way, so y'all is going to come out a lot.
Super redneck.
No, I've definitely learned a lot, and hit us up. Email us at info@kachilife.com. Ask us some questions. What you want to know. The podcast is going to be available at kachilife.com. We're going to also have it out on several mediums, so you'll be able to find us pretty easy. Just search Peru Travel Podcast. Right, David?
Darn tootin'. There's my redneck for you. My Tennessean. All right, guys, thanks so much for catching up with us here at the Peru Travel Podcast. Again, I'm David Kozlowski.
I'm Charlie Thompson.
And we'll see you soon.